Hey everyone, I'm back with another video as I've been absolutely obsessed with a certain book series for about 2 weeks now. I've binged all the books, watched several YouTube videos on it, and I scrolled a mile on the subreddit looking for fan art and theories. So I'm making this video as my sales pitch for the Kingkiller Chronicles because I want to just gush about it. But before I decide to ramble any further, I'd like to read you a page from the book. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of three parts. The most obvious part was a hollow, echoing quiet made by things that were lacking. As if there had been a wind, it would have sighed through the trees, set the inn sign creaking on its hooks, and brushed the silence down the road like trailing autumn leaves. If there had been a crowd, even a handful of men inside the inn, they would have filled the silence with conversation and laughter, the clatter and clamor one expects from a drinking house during the dark hours of the night. If there had been music, but no, of course there was no music. In fact, there were none of these things, and so the silence remained. Inside the Waystone, a pair of men huddled at one corner of the bar. They drank with quiet determination, avoiding serious discussions of troubling news. In doing this, they added a small, sullen silence to the larger, hollow one. It made an alloy of sorts, a counterpoint. The third silence was not an easy thing to notice. If you listened for an hour, you might begin to feel it in the wooden floor underfoot and in the rough, splintering barrels behind the bar. It was in the weight of the black stone hearth that held the heat of a long dead fire. It was in the slow back and forth of a white linen cloth rubbing along the grain of the bar. And it was in the hands of the man who stood there, polishing a stretch of mahogany that already gleamed in the lamplight. The man had true red hair, red as flame. His eyes were dark and distant, and he moved with a subtle certainty that comes from knowing many things. The Waystone was his, just as the third silence was his. This was appropriate, as it was the greatest silence of the three, wrapping the three inside itself. It was deep and wide as autumn's ending. It was heavy as a great river smooth stone. It was the patient, cut flower sound of a man who is waiting to die. The Kingkiller Chronicles is a fantasy series written by Patrick Rothfuss. I recently reread it and I fell in love with its world and characters. This story is not an epic that celebrates hope or the good nature of humanity, or a romance that ends with the heroes living happily ever after. This is a tragedy through and through, written beautifully in elegant poetic prose. The world is in utter chaos. War continues to ravage the lands. There are rumors of demons prowling about. The trade seems to have come to a halt as the roads have become treacherous. The towns and villages are in despair as they prepare for a harsh winter as simple table salt is now being sold at the price of jewelry. In a distant village, there is an inn with a warm hearth and good food. The innkeeper is new to the village. He has hair red as true flames, and although he pretends to be a simple peasant, he is someone who has the aura that comes with knowing forbidden things. He has hidden his true name and his true nature, for he is to blame for the tragedies of this world. These books are a retelling of Quoth's story, in his own words. I'll read an excerpt from the book which might give you an idea about what sort of character Quoth is. My name is Quoth. I have stolen princesses back from sleeping barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebin. I have spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear to speak of during day. I have talked to gods, loved women, and written songs that make the minstrels weep. You may have heard of me. As you can probably tell, Quoth is a bit of a legendary figure and he's quite fond of that fame. Even a bit egoistic, you might say. Although this reputation has slowly become a tight noose for him as he is a broken and tortured man nowadays. And he wants to be left alone as a nobody in some backwater village, but life sends him Devon Lockies, aka the Chronicler, who is adamant on learning Quoth's entire story in Quoth's own words. The majority of both The Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear is Quoth narrating the events of his life for the chronicler to pen down with brief intervals to the present day. Quoth goes from being a member of a traveling troupe known as the Edema Rule to being a street urchin fending for himself in the streets of Tarbean to being a student at the prestigious university with archives said to have 10 times 1,000 books. Quoth always had a curious nature. He wants to be someone who knows the truth of this world. He wants to speak the name of the wind, to mold the very nature of wind to obey his commands. It is a great boon to him that he is a child prodigy. He is extremely quick to pick up most new skills, and his ability to retain knowledge is incredible to say the least. He is also a true artist at heart, as being a member of a traveling troupe has given him a profound appreciation for music and stories. Music is a part of his soul. Without it, he starts to feel hollow, as if an entire organ was splintered away from his body. This is about the extent of what I can say about him without going into spoiler territory. Although I do want to address one common criticism I've seen levied against Quoth, which is that Quoth is a Mary Sue. This is a hilarious take to have, considering the very point of this tragic story is that Quoth has made an absolute mess of the world and his own life. Even in several instances of the story, we see his struggles. Sure, he is a prodigy, but that does not stop the world from beating him down, and at the end of the day, he is still human, with very human limits. He has to work excessively hard to keep himself alive, earn a wage, and to study so that he can keep himself enrolled in the university. Many other characters in the story display similar feats to Quoth, and some even outshine him in several abilities. Quoth is not perfect. He is a highly traumatized child with severe issues. So, no doubt, these issues develop into anger, frustration, and into an obsession, which lead him to make plenty of stupid decisions. This concludes that the take Quoth is a Mary Sue doesn't hold any water. Another character that I want to speak about is Denna, who might be one of the most complex characters I've ever read. I can't reveal anything about her without spoilers, so I'll refrain from that. The only thing I'll say is the dynamic between Denna and Quoth is one of the most interesting parts of the book. Several other praises, some random and some important ones, that I have for this book are as follows. The book has beautiful poetic prose. It has a fascinatingly creepy and unsettling world full of unexplained mysteries. I like the portrayal of nobility in this series. The side characters serve their purpose well, whether it be heartwarming, evil, cruel, funny, etc. Although all of them are nuanced so as not to feel one note, the lore of this world is fascinating, and Rothfuss also incorporates the transient nature of stories as they are spread around through word of mouth. And some of the antagonists in this book will truly invoke a sense of dread that will linger with you long after you finish the book. So I humbly request any of you who found any of what I said interesting to kindly check out the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. It might become one of your favorites, and even if it doesn't, I vouch that it'll at least be a good time. Thanks for watching. Trampling Beast signing out.